After less than 5 days of cricket, the Border Gavaskar Trophy has been won by Team India over Australia. India won the second test by 6 wickets, wrapping up the series, taking an unassailable 2-0 lead after obviously winning the last series in Australia. They now retain the trophy. So even if Australia win the next two games, India are still keeping the trophy. And it took them less than 5 days. After all this talk in the media and all this talk about preparation and whether it was correct and whether it was wrong, Australia has already lost the series. What's most disappointing is that Australia was in a really good position to win the second test, and we'll go over each innings in more detail, but overall thoughts are that India are just too good at home. Prior to the series, I said that Australia and India are the two best teams in the world, and that might still be true, but in the reality, it's India and then daylight, and even England are looking really good at the moment and looking better than Australia. So yeah, we're gonna go over the match, and we're gonna talk about briefly the Indian performances and how extraordinary they were this match for most of it. But predominantly, this is going to be about Australia and where do we go from here? Like, if the first test was a disaster, this one exceeds all expectations in terms of cricketing crisis for Australia. So yeah, let's get into it, I guess. It's hard to think that Australia actually started this match really well. When we got 260 odd in the first innings, I was actually watching and I was thinking, yeah, this is on this pitch, that's going to be a really competitive score. And batting first is such a big advantage in these conditions. And, to score 260 even in these conditions is pretty good, and it's enough to put pressure on the opposition. Individually, Warner looked completely out of sorts. Even before getting hit on the elbow and getting the concussion or whatever it was, he looked out of sorts, and honestly, it looks like his test career is over, in my opinion. He just looked all over the place. Feet were nowhere. He was struggling against Shami, he was struggling against Siraj, he was struggling against Ashwin, struggling against the full ball, the short ball. Just nothing really went right for Warner this game, and it ended up with him getting subbed out by a concussion. How much of a concussion he had, I'm not sure. The fact that he cracked his elbow suggests that maybe we just kind of said it was concussion, but yeah, I hope he gets fit and gets healthy soon, and maybe he can gear up for the World Cup later in the year. But I can't see us taking him to England on the form he's in and just expecting him to go well. It's honestly not fair on him, and I understand treating our legends of the game with respect, but there has to be a point where it's like we're just taking over a walking wicket. And yeah, I don't know. I think maybe they should give him the World Test Championship, even if we even get that far at the moment. But yeah, really tough for David Warner. It looked really tough going for him out there. Uzi batted really well. He employed his reverse sweeps, he employed his traditional sweeps, he was using his feet, and he had a really good first innings. He looked rarely troubled on his way to that 84, I think it was, until he hit one to KL Rahul, who took a good catch, to be fair to him. But yeah, Uzi looked really strong in that innings, and yeah, I just think if he gets 100 there, and he can go handscom a little longer, Australia get an even bigger first innings total than 260, which would have been really handy. Marnus Labuschagne looked pretty good. He was being aggressive, but in the end, his aggressiveness sort of caught up to him. And then once he actually went to defend one, he got a really good ball from Ashwin. And yeah, when Ashwin spins it that much, he can't really be expected to do much. And then 2 balls later, Smith's in. And Smith gets one that lands in practically the same spot, and it goes the other way, and he gets caught behind. So that's the challenge of the Indian conditions. I mean, Smith's been here before. He knows that that's how the pitches play. Was it a bit unlucky? Yeah, I think so. But you get that in Indian conditions. Hanscom came out. He batted really well. Probably the best innings of Peter Hanscom's career, to be honest. I know he got those couple of hundreds against Pakistan, but this is a completely different situation, and I thought he looked really good in the first innings, and honestly, he has to play the rest of the series. After that, we'll have to reassess, but yeah, he looked really good in the first innings at least. I think the most impressive thing about this match is that all the players went out there with intent. Or the first innings, I should say, all the players went out there with intent, and they were trying to hit the Indians. Like, there's no point just blocking, and then just getting out and going, well, I got a good ball. No, you have to take the game to them. And I thought we did that pretty well, even like going towards the lower order. Paddy Cummins was coming out trying to hit them, so was Lyon. So I can forgive them for that, and yeah, playing with intent. And in the end, 260, I felt like that was a pretty good score. So then we go out to bowl, and we didn't have a great evening on the first day, but then the second day, the first morning, was incredible. Coley got going a little bit, which was proving a little bit of a thorn in the side, but Nathan Lyon was superb, and like, he had a really poor first test, Nathan Lyon, and he just proved in this match why he is our premier spinner and why he is our greatest ever off spinner. And yeah, he bowled really well in that first innings for India. Manny Kuhneman looked really good as well. I thought that he probably didn't get the reward he deserved with how he bowled. He bowled good line and length, which is why they probably picked him over Agar, is that he could just hold a length. I didn't really think he was a big turner of the ball coming into the match, but he ended up turning them quite a lot. So well bowled to Manny Kuhneman. Todd Murphy was pretty good as well. Obviously, nothing's going to come close to that debut that he had the other game, but he was still looking pretty good. And Australia had India in a lot of trouble. They were 6 or 7 for 130, and we were looking at like a 100-run lead. And then Patel and Ashwin just completely took the game away from Australia. They batted so well. From an Australian perspective, it was incredibly frustrating to watch that partnership and watch it keep going up and up and up. And suddenly we're going, oh, now what if we can lead by 70, that'll be good. And then that becomes 50 and then 30 and then 20. And then it's all of a sudden it's like, all right, if India lead by only 20, that could be a good thing. So yeah, well played to them both. They're probably good enough to bat 6 in any other team in the world. But yeah, India's got them batting 8 and 9 respectively pretty much. So yeah, in the end, we did get the lead. We got a massive lead of 1, which I'm sure the boys were ecstatic about in the sheds. And honestly, even at that point, I would still say that Australia were on top. Like, India having to bat last in the match, a lead of 1 is, if anything, is fine. If we can get 250, that would have been incredibly competitive. If we could make them bat on the 4th and 5th day. Now on to Australia's second innings. So to start the innings off, Khawaja hits a nice catch for Shreyas Iyer at short leg. So yeah, that was a bit of catching practice for him. Yeah, and then Head and Marnus both looked really good on late day too. They were both playing really aggressively. Head in particular, taking on the spinners, taking on the fast bowlers. It was looking really, really promising. And then the third day happened, or should I say the third morning. And yeah, India just completely tore us apart. Players getting out to poor shots, weird shots. Just, it seems like in before the day's play, it was just a team talk, and it was just, we're all just going to play sweep shots the whole time. Like, sweep shots worked for Uzi in the first innings, so we're just going to keep playing sweep shots. And even after a few of us got out the sweep shots, we kept playing more sweep shots, even though that clearly wasn't working. And I just think you got to look at the conditions, and you know, we look at the Indian players from the first test. They got big runs from playing with a straight bat. Like Patel, he didn't sweep in the India's first innings of this match. Nor did Ashwin. They just played with a nice straight bat, and they just kind of bunted our spinners around, picked off the short ones when they came, and we just decided we're just going to sweep everything. And yeah, it didn't pay off. So within 100 odd balls, the game was just done, and that was it. The series was over. There wasn't really any positives to that innings. Smith got out for low score again. Carey, I admired in the first test that he had a plan to keep sweeping, but at some point you have to adjust, and he just hasn't so far. So I think even Alex Carey's position is in a dangerous position as well, to be honest. And that might seem harsh, but this is like a very serious situation now for the Australian team. We've won a lot in the last 12 months, but a lot of that's come from pretty weak teams. Like, we beat a very poor England side in the Ashes. We beat Pakistan away, which, you know, was a pretty decent accomplishment, I'd say. We dropped a game to Sri Lanka, and then we beat the West Indies and the Saffers in the home summer. none of that is really... The Pakistan tour was probably the hardest challenge we had in that. And yeah, we passed it only just. And now we're at our big challenge in what's a massive year for the team, and we've been smoked within 5 days. Like, there has to be some sort of change to the team, and particularly the batting. But like, who do you replace in that team? Maybe that's something we'll discuss in a little bit. So India chased down the score pretty easily. They lost 4 wickets. A lot of it was just because of their intent, the crease. They were just kind of trying to push the pace. There was a run out, so that happens. I'm sure they won't be analysing that too much because they've already won the series. And so yeah, that's it for the series. Let's have a look, well, for the first 2 test matches, I should say. Let's have a look for the next 2 matches. Now, Australia, there's a bit going on with the squad. So Cummins is going home for personal reasons. It's apparently family illness, so hopefully everything's okay. He is slated to return for the 3rd test, but if not, I'd assume Steve Smith would take up the captaincy. But they're saying Pat Cummins will get back, so we'll see if that happens. Josh Hazlewood is going home for good. He's missing the rest of the series after more injuries. And yeah, I think that's the right decision too. The series is already over. He's probably not going to play a game in the series, so just send him home and rest him up for the Ashes. I think that's the right call. There is talks about Warner, Agar and Renshaw potentially going home. So Warner, because of his injury, it's not worth risking him at this point. And then Agar and Renshaw, like, there's no chance Agar's playing another game this series, so may as well send him home. And then Renshaw's just been a mess, and I'm a big Matt Renshaw fan. I thought he was going to be really effective coming back into the team, but he's just mentally not there this series, and he's just flat out not good enough in these conditions against Ashwin and Jadeja. And then the circus of flights across the Indian Ocean is continuing, because now Swepson's going back over after the birth of his child, so who knows if he gets a game or not. Like, it's just musical chairs at this point anyways. And yeah, that's currently where the team is at. I suppose the only real thing to talk about is maybe the replacements. So if Warner heads home, there's a few options. Travis Head can just keep opening the batting. He did a mild job in the 2nd test. There's some options if they do want to fly over some of the Shield players. So Bancroft is currently batting really well for WA. I think he's up to the top of the Shield run scorers now. The other options, Daniel Hughes from New South Wales, he's looked quite good in his last few digs. Tim Ward from Tassie's in good form. And then a real outsider that I think wouldn't be a bad call is Daniel Drew from South Australia. He's coming off a double 100. Batting at first drop, but it might be worth just giving him a crack, let him open the batting. Nothing to lose at this point. You may as well shuffle up the team. As for Hazlewood, I don't feel like they'll fly over another quick. I'd say they'll just play Stark if he's fit, and Boland or Lance Morris. I would really love them to just give Lance Morris a go now and just try and rough up India with some pace, because we just need to try something different. So I think that's worth it. And even though the series is over, there's still a lot to play for. So we do need to try and win one of these test matches, because if we do that, then we are in the World Test Championship final. Because if we lose both of these last 2 matches and Sri Lanka sweep New Zealand, which is unlikely, but it could happen, then we're out of the final. So we need to, get some fight about us and try and win these last 2 matches if possible. And honestly, a 2-2 result against India, that would be a pretty good result. I don't see it happening, but we'd probably walk away thinking we've done a pretty good job there. Alongside all that, just there's players playing for their future. Like, who knows what the future will hold if Khawaja struggles for the rest of the series? What does his future look like? Warner probably is done for the series, so he doesn't have he won't get the chance to play for anything. Marnus needs to prove he's not a home track bully. Smith has looked really out of touch so far, so he's got stuff to prove. Travis Head's got stuff to prove. It goes all the way down the list. Alex Carey could be playing for his spot, so there's a lot in it for Australia still, and there's a lot on the line, and there are still stakes. So we have to remember that, and we have to, as a team, Australia has to stay positive going forward and try and get some more results out of this series. And yeah, that's pretty much it. India, too good in the conditions. It's very laughable that pre-series we came in thinking Australia had a chance, because honestly, on paper, this is one of the best Australian teams that's gone over there. I feel like this is a better team than 2017, and 2017 put up a real fight and pushed India all the way. 2013 we got pumped. It was a pretty crappy squad, and then 2011 before that was probably an even weaker squad, and yet this team has probably been among some of the worst performances of any of those teams that have previously come. So yeah, pretty disappointing. 2-0 India. See you at the next test.